On today's show, the Clippers are 0-4 since making the trade for James Harden. What exactly is going so spectacularly wrong with this Clippers squad since adding James Harden to the mix? Is there a world where Harden can coexist with Russell Westbrook, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard? How can they make this work for the Clippers? It's all coming up right here at Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They're the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because it's just you versus the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, all you do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 players, stat projections, and then you watch the winnings roll in. It's so simple to play. You can make your picks and submit your entry in less than 60 seconds. They've got quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selections of players and stat types, which is what makes Prize Picks the #1 DFS option. And with basketball season here now, you can pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League. It's a league created specifically for combo projections that include 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, you could do LeBron James plus Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made plus reception. So if you've been considering getting into daily fantasy sports, you've got to check out Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. Joining us now is the host of Locked On Clippers, Darian Vaziri, who you can track down wherever you listen to your podcast and on YouTube. Just search Locked On Clippers. Now, Darian, this was a trade that felt like it was brewing for a long time. James Harden is now a Clipper, and things aren't looking great right out of the gate. 0-4 with James Harden, 5 straight losses for the Clippers. Kind of walk us through what you're seeing just right from the forefront with why this isn't working or looks so rough right out of the gate with James Harden wearing a Clippers jersey.
Well, Jackson, I think it's every single thing that I feared and every reason that I didn't want the trade to happen. It's happening right now. The offense feels very clunky, feels very my turn, your turn. And as we talked about with Houston, Russell Westbrook and James Harden, they didn't have any other stars that they had to give the ball to. What happens now is if you let James Harden and Russell Westbrook, 4 years older versions of them, by the way, do their thing, then there's quarters where Clipper fans will be saying, Paul George hasn't shot in a while. Paul George hasn't touched the ball. Kawhi Leonard looks like a role player sitting in the corner. These are all things that are being said. And also the main thing, having James Harden takes the ball out of Westbrook's hands and makes him a spot-up guy. And defenses are going to live with Westbrook shooting all day long. And Harden, he finds the open man, but that open man is Westbrook at the top of the key or at the three-point line. Teams are going to live with that. And you just don't get the value from Westbrook that the Clippers brought him in to do. And I think it's kind of redundant having both of them that want to handle the ball, that want to do their thing. And James Harden, I want to say, has been very, very unselfish in the sense that he's honestly been too passive. He's letting Kawhi, Paul, and Russ do their thing, but it's really hard to let them fully do their thing because at the same time, there are stretches where James Harden will get on the ball and will run pick and rolls. And if it's a Zubats, he has not been very good so far this season. He's been losing the ball easily. He just hasn't been playing with confidence. And I think you're starting to see that James Harden, having lob threats in the past like Clint Capella, and then having a guy that can pick and pop like Embiid, it helped him too. And Zubats is not a pick and pop guy or a real lob threat. And him being out of form, it's really hurting Harden in that pick and roll. Plus, when Harden's in with Russ, okay, you can pass it to Zoo. Everyone is going to rotate off of Russ, pack the paint, and force them to kick it out. And then defensively, we knew we were going to get worse, replacing Robert Covington and Nicholas Batum with James Harden. Not only has it caused a problem in the starting lineup where the Clippers are too small, having Kawhi Leonard at the 4, you struggle now to keep the ball in front with Harden, and now Westbrook is your 4th best defender in the starting lineup as opposed to your 5th. He would have been He would have been the least good defender probably in the starting lineup. Although you can argue it with Zoo. Had Terrence Mann been starting, had the trade not happened. Now you have just a weaker backcourt defensively. And off the bench, Bones Highland and Norman Powell. Well, when you're staggering Russell Harden, that means those three are going to be playing together. And Mason Plumlee, before he got injured, he's not a great rim protector, but then now you don't have Mason Plumlee. You're playing PJ Tucker at the 5 with 3 defenders at the guard position. First of all, 3 guards, neither of which are necessarily very good defenders. This was the first game against Memphis the game against Memphis was the first for Bones Highland. He was just taken out of the rotation completely, which sucks to see. And right now it's just as horrific a fit as you can think of. The star players, Kawhi and Paul, are deferring. Westbrook's had some rough games. Now Harden had a rough game on Sunday, and Westbrook had a good game. It seems like they can't play well when they're on the court together on this team.
It kind of felt very reminiscent of the Rockets Game 6 comeback against the Clippers, where they rested James Harden in the fourth quarter to be able to mount their comeback. And it was like Ty Lue took a page out of Kevin McHale's playbook. It was like, you know what? All right, we're just going to put Harden on the bench. And then suddenly Clippers are right back into it. But they've been, at least in these 4 games since the trade, they're a bottom 3 offense in the NBA. They're the 24th best defense in the NBA since the trade. And, look, the trade has happened, Darian, right? There's no redo button. There's no erase button. There's no Control Z here. So if you're in the driver's seat for this Clippers team, how do you make this work now? Do you let these stars continue to play with each other and hope that it's one of those things where just the talent will win out and eventually they'll figure out how to play off of one another? Or do you have to try and maybe make some hard decisions and figure out, okay, well, we're going to have to put one of Russ or James Harden on the bench to be able to make this thing actually work?
I think you definitely have to make a change in the starting lineup. I don't think they're strong enough defensively. And it's kind of crazy how one player, when you put James Harden in instead of, say, Covington, who we had starting, it honestly just makes everybody else look better on defense when they have a 7-foot wingspan guy in Covington as opposed to Harden. It's like the players are getting out to the 3-point line quicker. The help is quicker. They're moving their feet better, just more length and size on the court, more athleticism on the court. So you put Harden in there, it just feels that like the Clippers are old and slow in that starting lineup. And that's another thing. Our pace is totally different now. I think Harden has tried to, run some fast breaks when he's received the ball off of misses and he's pushed and passed and done, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, that Harden could make that little outlet pass or that forward pass, but it's not what he wants to do. It's not what the Clippers are going to try to do when he's in the game very often. And judging by the Sunday game, the consensus after the game seemed to be that people want James Harden to come off the bench because Russell Westbrook not only has built that chemistry with Paul George, which he's had dating back to Oklahoma City. Paul George is fantastic with playing off of Westbrook. And Kawhi and them have played with each other a little bit last season, had the full training camp together, and it just makes our team, I think, look better defensively. The good lineups in this Sunday game were Westbrook, Terrence Mann, and Paul George based. 3 of our more athletic players have size defensively or physical. And I think Russell Westbrook, I know it's crazy to say that because a lot of people, including myself, were considered Harden a better player coming into this, but it's just the way Westbrook fits with that first 5 in the way that he wants to push pace. And the Clippers just seem like they want to push pace and be a defensive minded team that can often score points off of turnovers. And that's what you're seeing the first couple of games. But that's completely gone away because our team is not as good defensively. So you're not forcing those same turnovers. And I think with Terrence Mann, Russell Westbrook, Kawhi, and Paul George in the starting lineup, it'll be a better defensive unit. You can get Russ to do his thing. And I honestly think playing with just shooters and guys that don't really want the ball as much, I think James Harden is better suited for that. I think Russell Westbrook in the half court is not the same player that James Harden is. I think you want to let James Harden have the freedom to roll with his lineup where he can do pick and roll every time down and create some decent shots for guys like Norman Powell or whether it's Kobe Brown or PJ Tucker. I say that because PJ Tucker is just looks past it personally. Whoever that guy is though, you're going to see Norman Powell. I'd like James Harden running that second unit. I think he could be great in it. I know some fans will disagree, but that's what it seems like the consensus after the game today from Clipper fans.
Can the Clippers get this thing turned around? A rough 0-4 start in the James Harden era. And would James Harden be willing to accept a bench role if that's what Ty Lue thinks is the best case scenario moving forward for this Clippers team? Darian, you'll have us covered for all of that and so much more over at Locked On Clippers. Appreciate you stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
Anytime.